generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet. Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we got our very first set of Andor episodes. Remember, we have a whole different release schedule this time with Andor where we're getting three at a time. So every Tuesday we're getting basically a segment in time. So like this past week we had three episodes that are going to be about this one particular time period, and then this next week we'll get three episodes, and there's supposed to be a time jump. And then this is of course going to lead up to eventually Rogue One. And they've been saying in interviews that it'll give you a whole different perspective watching Rogue One. So they say watch this show, then watch the movie, and it'll be a completely different experience. But we have yet to see how that will play out. So we're here to talk about the first three episodes, give you our opinions about it, and of course, we're going to be talking about spoilers along the way. Just initial, because I know a lot of people really like season one. Just let's just kind of do like a little reminder of how we felt about season one. I thought season one had some good ideas, but with the way that it was written and filmed, I thought it was very slow and pretty boring. That's not to take away from the big climactic parts that happen in basically the part three of each of the different big events that were happening, like the prison break. The last episode of that was great. The rebellion at the end, the last episode was great. In the very beginning, the third episode was great, but a lot of those pieces that were in between were very slow and expedition or exposition dumps. So that's kind of where I was at with the first season. What did you guys think?
I barely remember the first season, to be honest. I remember not liking it at the time, but looking back on it compared to this season, I feel like that one was a lot more exciting. Um, I remember at the time thinking like I'm never gonna want to watch this again just because it really wasn't for me. It was very more I don't want to say drama based because it's not like, reality TV type drama, but it was less actiony, right? It was more, as you said, exposition. Um,
More political.
yeah, but they had its moments.
Yeah, they jumped from I don't know. We started out on Ferrix and it's I don't know. I liked season one of Andor a lot. Ferrix just doesn't never felt like a super I don't know what I'm trying to say here, like unique place to Star Wars. It kind of felt like a place a little too close to home, I guess. That's all I would say. Um, but yeah, the music, the composition, the shots, the like it's very well made show. Um, it is a
Expensive.
little boring at times, I will say that. Every time Cyril's on screen with his mom, I want to just fast forward. It's just none of those scenes are worth anything to me. And then now he's back in season two, so we'll see what he gets up to.
Yeah. Well, what I would say an extension to that though is I like Dedra. I like Dedra from season one. I like Dedra in season two. I think she's a very interesting character to see, the different faces that she puts on. And so the fact that she's with, that character in season two, maybe we'll kind of get a different side of him as opposed to just seeing his mom rip on him all the time. Although we do get to see a little bit of that, in these first three episodes as well. But then we get to see that the like trying to be civil side of Dedra between the mom and her, but then also when he leaves the room, Dedra basically puts that Imperial face back on and tries to tell her what's what. So um, it's kind of a interesting dynamic to see that mix come into play with the different family members. But yeah, we got, was it like three or four different major things that are happening between these three episodes? We got what's happening with Andor. We got what's happening with um, the Imperials. So with Krennic, we do get Krennic right away in this show. Then we got Bix and what's happening on like this small farm. And then we have the Mon Mothma side of things with her family. Was there any major pieces that I missed out of those?
I think those are the four.
Gotcha. So we'll just kind of take them one at a time because they're arguably pretty separate from each other, aside from Andor connecting to um, the Bix side of things towards the end of episode three. But we open this show with Andor, and it's the scene from the trailer with the TIE fighter where he's like bouncing around. He's trying to steal it, and he steals this TIE fighter. He's having a very hard time controlling it and understanding how to fly it. And
Yeah, it's like a
eventually,
brand new TIE fighter, like a new design or something.
right, which I think I read online, it's like a connection to one of the early video games from like the 90s, TIE Fighter or something like that. So it's like I think it's the first time we're seeing it on film. Um, he steals this starfighter or TIE fighter, whatever, and he goes somewhere where he's supposed to be meeting somebody. And arguably, I think this was the worst part of the first three episodes was this whole arc with Andor, because he goes to this place and the person he's supposed to meet is not there. There's basically this group of people. I wouldn't call them a tribe, but they're similar as if they were like a tribal group that was in the area. But they're led by two, is it brothers that just love to argue?
They weren't really led, like one of them just assumed command when the former leader went missing for something. We we don't really get their story. They don't
I
seem
think
to
the brother is
matter.
missing.
One of their brothers?
Yeah, because they keep arguing about like, well, your brother betrayed us because he left and
Mm.
stuff like that.
Gotcha. Well, needless to say, this whole arc is just basically this group of people bickering, and then Andor needs to figure out a way to get away from them. And there's a lot of time spent on this. And just like
And it
Austin
leads
said,
to
what's that?
a great way to solve their problems. Star Wars rock paper scissors. Who
Oh
knew?
yeah, oh my God.
Yeah,
Man.
I was ready to be done at that point. But I hung in there. I was like, surely Andor will get out of here any moment.
Well, I was also just hoping there was going to be a point to this, because just like you mentioned with the cereal and Cyril and his mom, this was arguably the part that I really wanted to skip, but I was like, well, what if there is something here that we're supposed to get for the
Like
overall?
from an artistic point of view, like every scene should have a purpose. And like some of the time with this show, I really just don't see the purpose. And it's just really like you're showing me if these whatever rebel cell this is, I think they did link this cell back to like the other show actually. I think I did see that in a different video, but um basically you're just showing us that they're unorganized. They don't even know that there was supposed to be another pilot there. Like the rebels are not in a good spot. I guess that's all you're showing us so far from that jungle planet. That's all I
Yeah.
got.
I just thought it was, from my perspective of just trying to rationalize why, it just seemed like it was a Star Wars world building moment where it was just showing another part of the galaxy for really no apparent reason aside from filling the episode length. And
Well,
I
if
really
you
didn't
said
like that.
If he's supposed to meet another pilot there who's going to take the ship after him, where was he supposed to go? Just live on the planet now? Like, surely there must have been some other transport there that he was supposed to take.
Was it the downed
Yeah.
one?
I thought the downed one was what that tribe or whatever had crashed in on.
I don't know, personally.
Yeah, I'm not sure because Andor had his weapon like in the one ship, so I guess he must have been staying there for at least some period of time. But yeah, I guess I didn't really like how we just started right in with the action. I think that was like a complaint they heard from season one. They're like, okay, you guys don't like that it was so slow, we'll start with action. But they started with action with zero setup and like just throwing us right in.
I didn't mind the TIE fighter part of it. I
Yeah,
just wish
I liked that part.
I
Oh,
wish we could have
okay.
just zipped past this
I don't know. I just like heist movies a lot, so I guess I would have liked it a lot more if they set it up. But I get they got to pick and choose where they spend their time, and apparently we spend it on a farm and some other places. These arc.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's essentially Andor's section of this. The we'll come back to Andor when we talk more about what's happening with Bix. Um, one of the things that I would say was the section that interested me a lot more than others was the part with Krennic and all the
Hmm.
Imperial leaders. Um, it's not very action based. It is definitely way more exposition based. But I thought it was really interesting to kind of see the perspectives of what was going on. So in this scene, Krennic is explaining to the other Imperial leaders, and we see a couple of them that we recognize from season one. But he's explaining to them that there's this planet and there's a mineral on the planet that they want to extract. But if they try to extract too far deep into the core of the planet that it could compromise things and cause issues for those that live there. And so, kind of out of greed, they're wondering, well, what if we just remove these people that live there and then we do what we need to do to get the minerals? And if things are fine, they can go back, whatever. But the problem with that is that I guess these people have a pretty loud voice in the Senate. And so they don't want to upset these people, but at the same time, they want the material that is on the planet. And so there's quite the political back and forth of, we're now this new reestablished empire. They kind of want to put on the face of being the good guys when really their intentions are really bad. So it was an interesting dynamic here, at least for me, to see how they're, deliberating things and how they want to maneuver it. What did you guys think of this scene or arc?
Go ahead.
I like this scene a lot. Krennic, the actor who plays him, does a great job. Um, yeah, I don't know. I like seeing this part of the Empire, seeing them plot and scheme, and this is what I want to see. When I don't know when we're seeing them do evil deeds, this is kind of what I have in mind, rather than the troops on the ground. But
I feel
um,
like for me, it was a lot of telling and not a lot of showing. And
yeah, it
even
was
the telling
set up, I
aspect,
guess.
I wish it was more of a discussion than a lecture
Hmm.
because I didn't like it. I felt like I was just sitting in a lecture and
Yeah,
like
it was presented weird. It was like the way it was presented to the people in the room.
the idea of it was it had potential. And I can see the struggle, like the moral struggle of what to do and stuff, and that it's evil that they want this
I
and all
don't think
that.
they're
But
being all that moral about it, are they? It seems like they just want to like destroy the planet and then evacuate the people or do what it takes to just.
I just mean because like Dedra doesn't want to. be in charge of it for whatever reason. So there's some
Hmm.
sort of a dilemma. It wasn't a strong enough drama for me to really care to watch.
I think what would have really helped this scene is because they're all sitting around a table. I think what would have helped is if that was like a hollow table and it would was projecting the planet and showing what this mineral looks like and maybe showing what the people that live there, how does what it looks like where they live in comparison to where they're doing their drilling, and maybe they would even show like if they overstepped what would the planet do, and they could show what kind of structural damage would occur. I think that would have helped out a lot. It would have given us a thing to look at while they're talking about their plan as opposed to having trying to piece it all together in our own minds.
Yeah, I would agree. The other
Yeah, some
part that
visuals. They just had like a video with like some
Oh yeah,
guy playing a horn.
yeah, it was kind of like a rah rah imperial type video.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other part that we kind of follow with this little storyline is with Dedra and Cyril, who are apparently living together now. Don't really know if they're married or boyfriend, girlfriend, or what. The relationship seems pretty cold. He was hoping she wouldn't be home, and she was.
Well, they're living together, so I would imagine they're at least dating. I mean, he's not living with his mom anymore,
Yeah.
unless she just happens to be the lesser of two evils, but I don't know. I think there's some spice in there. I think they're just not showing as much because even in season one, when we see them, during the rebellion at the end of the season, and they're in that little like storage area, as the audience we're like, oh, they totally made out right there, but they didn't show it on screen. So I almost wonder if that's just a way for them to convey through the shots that they like each other, but it's awkward and it's weird, and maybe that's just their way of translating that to us is just we know kind of what's going on, but because we're not seeing it, it feels more awkward to us and you know sending that message. I don't know. I could be just spitballing.
I think this is why I'm gonna really struggle with this season is with all the time jumps because we don't know what happened after the Ferrex rebellion. How did the Imperials get out of there without just being captured or tortured or whatever? Like how did Dedra and Cyril get out of there? And even aside from the rebellion side of things, looking at their relationship. I want to see some hint of love. Like, we saw in season one that they were like about to share a kiss or something and we didn't see it. And that's fine. I'm not saying we have to show it like with Kylo Ren. Like, it can be kind of weird. I get that.
Well, that was uncalled for, like the whole Kylo Ren and Rey thing. That had no merit to it. So
But like, can you imagine if Dedra just said like a little comment like, "Oh, you naughty little boy," or something like that? It can still be a power move. It can still be her, being her commanding self, but just something to show that there's some
she's
sort
the
of a connection between the two people.
she's the one who wants to be in control.
Right. I mean, so far the connection was her getting him his freedoms, I guess you could say, from his mother, like kind of getting his mom off his back so she's not so naggy.
He
Yeah.
doesn't have to buy the cereal that's on sale anymore.
Yeah.
No more tricks
So,
for him.
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't know. I thought that maybe we will see them later this season. Kind of maybe we'll see Dedra like let down her walls a little bit because you're kind of right. We kind of just see the same Dedra all the time. So,
I would not put it past them to put some sort of scene in here that is a little more adult oriented as far as their sexual life, just because of some of the other things that we saw, in these first three episodes. They're clearly trying to make this an adult Star Wars show without crossing too many lines. I don't think they're gonna go, full on like Game of Thrones type of deal, but I would argue there might be a little bit more than just like a Han Solo and Leia in the little area when C-3PO interrupted their first kiss.
I would be pretty surprised.
I wouldn't be.
For this particular show, just because I feel like they're so driven on storytelling and not showing.
On the other hand, they're like telling the wedding this whole time, right?
Yeah,
The
that's
Chandrillin wedding.
the
So
Mothma
so that I was actually excited to see because they set it up from last season the whole time.
Mhm.
Pretty much like halfway through the season they set that up. So I was kind of excited to see the payoff now that the wedding has happened. Um,
What I
I'm
liked
feeling
about
mostly satisfied from the wedding part, I guess I would say.
what I liked with the wedding is it wasn't just a wedding. Like we could at least I could tell being like an audience member in the, seeing how this stuff is unfolding, there is there's something going on here because they keep showing different shots of Luthen like glancing at certain people and it's like very specifically staying on characters. We even saw one where Luthen looked at somebody and that character like deliberately looked behind him to see if people were still staring at him. Like, even though, yes, we're here to see this wedding, there's a lot more going on here. And I was half wondering if there was going to be some sort of like betrayal where somebody gets turned over to the Empire and the Empire is going to crash this wedding. I was kind of hoping to see that, but it didn't happen. Because I know there's a scene in one of the previews where the Empire like comes into like this big open area, and I was wondering if that was the wedding, but it wasn't. They did a
Oh,
lot of cool
gotcha.
things with the cameras.
Yeah, they had some cool shots. I liked what they did with the wedding, the ceremonies. I didn't like the disco ball that showed up at the end. I thought that was a little bit too far gone, but uh
I liked the
yeah.
costume design for the most part, and the
Yeah.
wedding dress was really pretty.
Hmm.
But I thought the back and forth between the wedding bumping music at the end when Mothma's just trying to get drunk, they kept cutting back and forth between that and other things, and it just seemed so choppy.
Yeah, like I get the messaging. Like the messaging is like, okay, the party starts now, like things are getting messy, things are getting started. This is like where I don't know. This is where the fun begins, right? Um, like Mothma's just pounding the drinks because she sees Take Home get taken away by some presumed assassin, probably. And then
Oh, yeah, because
so he's
arguably,
never to be heard of again. And then
I don't think she really likes the guy that her daughter married
yeah,
personally.
she hates that guy. So she's marrying her daughter away. Like the whole thing is just on Mothma's. She's given a lot for this rebellion.
Well, did I pick up that she married her daughter away for funding of her projects, but then her funding was being cut anyway because she wasn't holding up her end of the like
It happened
social
because
deal?
of the Aldani, because of the Aldani heist. Everything got tightened in season one. That was like what all the politics were about. They
The Imperial Bank heist.
hmm once the heist happened, they increased all the restrictions, they increased all the prison sentences, they started arresting people for doing nothing. That was how Andor got free and then got arrested the next episode for doing nothing on the sidewalk. Um, but yeah,
We've
they
got some
seem to
other
be
little
setting
side
up some
stories.
interesting politics with this. Yeah, I wonder, I don't think we'll see Take Homa again. I feel like he's just gonna be missing. So maybe some mystery there. Um,
We've got
yeah.
Luthen's receptionist trying to make contact with Bix and Andor.
She's really, I don't know. She had like a fire under her. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like we don't quite know her motivations or her drive yet either.
Yeah, because she was
Like,
one that I was kind of keeping an eye on. Like, is she gonna, rat him out in some way, shape, or form? Like,
I
how
thought, yeah, I thought
trustworthy
they
is
were gonna get caught with like transmissions or something, getting like one of their communications.
I was thinking so too.
I I I know. So Sarah, you mentioned that the filming was a little weird with how they were cutting between the wedding and the other scenes. I When I was watching that, I kind of felt like what was happening was the other things that we were seeing aside from the wedding were very tense. They kind of like made you um, feel very cautious about what's happening. And I kind of felt like when they were cutting to this wedding and that music that was upbeat, I think it's kind of like, you're sucked into this really tense thing, but then when you hear that music, it rouses you back up, and then you go back to seeing this tense thing. I think they were really trying to play with emotions with that sequence of scenes, is my guess. So I
Hmm.
felt like it was
Yeah,
kind of a
because
roller coaster,
that's what like Mon Mothma's going through.
right?
She's trying to outwardly project that she's at her daughter's wedding, I mean, at the time of her life, but inwardly, she just saw her like childhood friend and probably lover like taken off to be murdered, and then yeah, meanwhile her daughter's being married away to some sleaze bag. So
You say sleazebag, but he wouldn't even hold her hand.
yeah, true. Well, it's his son, right? So the son might not be too bad yet.
Yeah. Then, Jeremy, do you want to touch on Vel, I think is her name?
Yeah, I mean, so wait, is Val the one that was missing or the one that's looking for her friend?
Vel, like Vel,
Oh,
and
Val.
she's the one who is looking for her friend.
Yeah, so she's at the wedding as well. I mean, she's kind of right there with Luthen, just like in the season one.
Well,
Um,
she's from there, right?
I don't remember. That's a
Yeah,
good
she is.
question.
She's like cousins with Mothma.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
So her big thing from season one is that, her friend was left behind, I think during the heist scenario. And she's wondering, where is she? And so when she's talking to Luthen saying like, hey, do you know where she's at? Luthen kind of tells her like, I do, but I don't want to tell you. Like that's confidential kind of a thing. And eventually towards the end of these three episodes, we see that she's kind of like, I don't know if it's a taxi or valet driver or if she's a specific driver for that person's vehicle or whatever, but they make eye contact. And so she does find out, hey, she is still, in the inner workings of the network of stuff that they're doing with the rebellion. But it's really weird. Like, you're basically best friends, and right now you're just not talking, even though you're still working together. Like, what the heck?
What makes me wonder, because I think was it Tay who got in? Um,
Yeah.
he made a comment about having a different driver normally and that she was filling in. So is she
Hmm.
gonna sneak him away somewhere? Is she gonna do something she's not supposed to? I don't know.
Yeah,
Wish I
that's
could
kind of
say
the
we'll
impression
see,
I
but we're gonna
got.
time jump.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a time jump, and then that guy's just gonna be besieged gone.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, hopefully we get some sort of flashback. Maybe she'll be explaining what she did to somebody, and we'll get like little flashback pieces of her torturing him or something. I don't know.
Yeah, she'll be giving some speech to the Senate, and it'll be her thinking about like the what did it cost?
What she really did.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, I liked the farm stuff, sort of. I like some of the farm stuff.
it was interesting. So this is arguably probably the most talked about thing that's going on with Andor right now. Um, so a lot of our characters from Ferrix that were part of the rebellion at the end of season one, they're now basically living on this farm where, in my opinion, I think they're doing it to just try to stay off the map, like off the grid, because, if the Empire happened to recognize that they were during, like they were there during the business on Ferrix, they'd probably be, taken into custody and stuff. And so they're living out in this, like, I would argue, not very populated planet, and they're moisture farmers. We can see because she goes and messes with the machine, and we can see the water come out the top. Um, but the big thing that happens here is that the Empire shows up. Did we find out why they were there, or was it just a routine check?
I thought they were just doing a raid.
Yeah, I don't know if we found out why they were there.
All
Not
right,
sure.
we'll call it a routine check then. They were checking in on the farm, and the officer in charge. Uh, so I guess we should back up. There's two main areas here at this farm. There's like the farm area, then there's their living area. And so there's, two locations that we bounce back and forth between while we're, seeing these scenes. And during this major part of this piece, Bix is back towards the living quarters area, and then the others are off working on the farm. And so this Imperial officer comes into the area where Bix is, definitely is attracted to her, and he's kind of insinuating, uh, you know, that she's pretty, would she ever want to go out on a date? It's a little bit more forceful language of like not having a choice. But she says, like, my husband, he's off world. He would not really like that. And so this pushes the Imperial officer to kind of back off a little bit. Um, and then there's another time where they come back, and this time when he comes back, he's kind of doing the same routine, and he doesn't believe her one bit that, she has a husband that's off somewhere. And so arguably this is the scene where people are talking a lot, right? Where this Imperial officer tries to force himself onto Bix, and she's not having any of it. And on the same side of this being, arguably a very uncomfortable scene in the Star Wars realm, a lot of people are also viewing it as a powerful moment for women because she like beats the crap out of them. Even though there is a bit of a tussle there too, where Bix is getting hit around a little too. Like he throws her up against the wall. I was kind of shocked how forceful he was able to do that. Um, but yeah, what kind of feelings did we have about this scene?
Uh, at this point in the show, I'm just gonna be blunt. This is, you know, a very
This
different opinion than most people. At this point in the show, I was already really bored.
I do want to clarify. So when this is happening, this is episode 3. So they
Yes.
people kind of know how long you've been watching before being utterly bored.
Yeah, we spent so much time on each of these stories, each of these groups, telling what's going on, and because we did time jump, we don't really know where we're at, when we're at, and all this stuff. And so they take the time to tell you all these things, but we don't get to see a whole lot about what's going on. So at this point, I was kind of already gone. Um, so it didn't hit as powerful for me, I think, as what it was intended to be, or as what some people, those who are fans of the show might have seen it as. So for me personally, it's great she was able to stand up for herself, but it wasn't like a super powerful moment that I connected with or resonated with or anything like that. I'm happy she could stand up for herself, especially with, how beat down she kind of was already. Like they made her makeup look really, she was very homely. Like very sleep deprived, very, we even see at one point she's got night terrors and stuff from her previous torture. And so she's been through some stuff. But I don't know. She just doesn't strike me as a power character anymore when I think of like Dedra or even Luthen's assistant, how they just have that commanding presence. I see those women as more powerful than Bix. Even though Bix is able to stand up for herself, it seems like a one-off kind of moment rather than a powerful character.
Yeah, she was one of my favorite characters as well from season one. So yeah, I think it makes me wonder that torture that she went through, was there anything that like did she get any some sort of brain damage that happened during that sequence? Because maybe that's why she's not as, you know, uh like her character in season one. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised. And I did like her in season one too. I feel like she was way more powerful then than she is now. And I can't blame her for being who she is, after going through all that she went through. She's not who she used to be.
What do you think, Austin?
Thank goodness Bix was okay, at least for now. R.I.P. Brazo. When looking for the young kid, he was off saying goodbye to his lover on the planet because that's how it works. They gotta settle down while they're here, even though they know they're not gonna be here forever. Um, but yeah, in classic fashion, the Empire shows up at the worst time possible, and then like you said, the lieutenant goes a little bit too far, or not a little bit, a lot too far, and then he gets his for that, and then yeah, it was pretty uncomfortable to watch, I will say that. But yeah,
He
other than
just
that,
he did it so slimy too, like insinuating that she had a choice of like, I know you're not a chartered citizen, so if you
right.
want me to look the other way, you got to do this for me.
Yeah, it was
So
just
it
a
looks like it's a
very
choice, but it's not really a
like
choice.
yeah, we already hate the Empire enough. Like this was kind of a weird direction to take things. Um,
I do
but
know our friends that, give us a lot of crap for being Team Empire when it comes to Empire versus Rebellion. When things like this come out, they're like, all right, explain yourself. And it's like, well, you know, I'm team like Darth Vader and stuff, and he's really cool. It's not Vader that's going around doing this crap. I mean, yes, it falls under the umbrella of the Empire, but do you,
that's kind of the idea is that the umbrella is so big that they can't possibly watch over everyone. Like, so this guy's basically got unchecked power.
yeah,
I think that's basically the idea. Um,
like as the writer of this show trying to make us feel ashamed that we have an Imperial flag at our house?
they, yeah, the writer made a statement about it, but I don't know if it really shed light on it or not.
So this is the reason why I mentioned earlier about Dedra and Cyril is that, we're not seeing a lot of their passion for each other. We're getting a lot of these awkward scenes of them together and then a lot of cuts before we could even possibly see anything as an audience member. But the fact that they're willing to go this far with this sort of scene as far as adult content, right? Because, kids shows don't have this kind of a thing in it. It makes me wonder if towards the end of the show, if they will finally show us, some sort of scene with the two of them, but I don't know. Maybe they'll keep it a secret the whole time.
We'll
Yeah,
have to
they
see
must
where the
have brought
tantrums go.
those. Yeah, they must have brought those two back for some reason. Not sure, but yeah, just excited to see what they set up, how many more people Andor's gonna lose, and then, I mean, we know K2's coming eventually. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's next week or the week after, or if they save it until the very end and make us all very sad, but
Was anyone else surprised how big that TIE fighter was on the inside that he was able to fit Bix? And there was another guy too, wasn't there?
There's a
yeah, it
lot of
was like
space.
three room for three people or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, because Luthen's assistant had told Cassian not to go to that planet, and he went anyway. And well, thank goodness he did because he kind of was able to save, but he wasn't able to save Brasso, but he was able to save Bix because he shot down all the troopers in the ground.
Yeah, because this is how we connect Andor to, the other significant things that are happening in the episode, aside from Andor's little one-off thing that, in my opinion, really made no sense. I wish he would have just went straight to this, basically.
Yeah, with the way that he got away from that group and escaped, I was just so, I don't know, just sat there like wondering why. Like why do we spend all this time with these people? So I'm really hoping they come back for something, but we'll just have to wait and see.
I would think they would have to because of how much time we spent, but if they don't, then I think it rings some merit to the fact that this was just like a filler for time, which I
Hmm.
don't, based on the writer, I don't foresee that would be the what's happening. But
Well, do you know the casting for some of those people on the planet?
no.
I think one of them is like directly related to the showrunner, the writer, but I
Oh,
think it's like his son or something. But either way, you can be related to somebody and be in a project that they make and then still do a great job. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. I don't know if I used that correctly. It's been a while.
oh, you used it right. Still
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. Andor.
So
if I compare this to the first grouping from season one, we got some ways to go. We're not quite there. The bar is set a little bit higher for me from season one.
the
Do
one
you
thing,
guys think it was good that it was three episodes all at once? Or do you think these episodes could have
Yes.
stood a leg on their own, coming out one week at a time?
no, we need three at a time.
I think this would have got ripped apart if it was one at a time.
Well, even season Andor season one, I think they did two for the first one and then one each
And then
week.
it was one, and it was so slow. It was so slow. Like,
But there is a group of fans that really loved it that way. So we must just be the minority.
like everyone appreciates things in their own way, like some people want to just turn on the TV, see some lasers, some effects go off and smile and be happy. Some people really want to feel some sort of connection to the characters and live in the world for however long the movie or show lasts. And that's Star Wars is like the best world, in my opinion, for doing that, for just dropping yourself into it and trying to just live in the world for a moment. And sometimes this show tries so much to be like our world and just tweak it like 10, 15%. And it's like it just takes me out of it a little bit.
I think that's a good point. Where the things that they're doing aren't they don't feel Star Warsy. They feel, like you said, a little closer to home.
Yeah.
But again, on the flip side, I bet there's a lot of people that like that aspect.
Hmm.
But my biggest complaint about the three episodes is that I thought the suckiest part about it was Andor.
Yeah,
Everything else was way more interesting than what he was doing, but yet he's supposed to be the showrunner of the show.
right. We spent more time with all the side characters and everything.
Right. Well, even the other characters I felt had way more interesting arcs than him. He went
Yeah.
somewhere with a bunch of people that I really didn't want to see on screen because I thought they were so annoying. And then he shows up at the end to save, our group on the farm. And, that was a great sequence with that part of it, but all the in between, it really slowed the momentum for me for anything else that was happening.
Yeah, true.
Any other thoughts for the first three episodes? Are we looking forward to more, or are we reluctantly going to be watching these?
I am looking forward to more. Um,
I'm looking forward to more Empire.
Only because yeah, things kind of have to start getting really spicy really soon. They only have a few groupings of episodes, so you know, if we get to next week and we're still saying, okay, things are going slow, I think there's going to be a real issue. So,
It is kind of weird how in season one, most of these big arcs happen in sets of three. I would argue that this set of three didn't have nearly the excitement of the ending of the set of three than any of the ones in season one, because we had the like battle slash escape of Ferrex. We had the bank or the Imperial um, heist with the money. We had the prison break, and then we had the big battle at the end. I don't think any of those, or I don't think what we had for this first three was any better than any of those.
That's what I was saying is it makes me look back and think I actually had it pretty good before.
But maybe things will get better.
One can hope.
I'm more I walked away from these three episodes more positive than I did for the from season one, just because I knew what my expectations were supposed to be. Because before my expectations were way higher as far as, like Austin said, seeing the booming and the explosions and wanting to see Andor just being a awesome character, but really it was just kind of slow and
yeah, I mean, it was really fun to see Mon Mothma on the planet. Like the whole long take they do. I mean, there's cuts in it, obviously, but the way they filmed it, it looks like it's just one continuous long take as she's walking down the different levels of stairs and she's got this upset look on her face when she's looking at the person who's just arrived and it's Luthen. You don't know it's Luthen yet, but and then and she walks past a guest that she's greeted, she immediately switches to happy, smiling, greeting them. And then as soon as they're gone, back to the grimace and the upset face. Like it was just a acting masterclass. Like she killed it.
I think that's something that people said a lot about with Luthen's character last season. So maybe they're
Yeah.
feeding off each other a little bit.
Yeah, the acting in the show is good. The writing and the scenes they choose to to show in the order that they show them, that stuff mm, makes me think sometimes. I'm sure there's a rhyme or reason. I just, you know,
Yeah, show's not over yet.
yeah.
We'll have to wait and
They
see.
they were kind of obligated to do the wedding, so I don't feel like that bad about it taking up this little chunk of time. Like now we can move on to other things, more important, more entertaining things.
Yeah. Sarah, did you have any other wrap-up things to say about the show?
Uh, nope, not really.
All right. Well, that was our talk on the first three episodes of Andor season two. We got our next three coming out very shortly, and I think there's four sets of three, isn't there? 12 episodes.
Think so.
Something like that. So we'll be back here with our next set of three episodes, 4 through 6, and giving our opinions about them. If you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Drop us a like if you like the video, and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts on the first three episodes. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.